In 2021, Monsanto Company pled guilty to 30 environmental crimes related to the use of a pesticide on cornfields in Hawaii. After using a glyphosate herbicide, Forfeit 280, in 2020, Monsanto allowed workers to enter the field during a 60-day restricted entry interval after the product was applied. Although no adverse health effects was associated with these applications, Monsanto violated the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, which regulates the registration, sale, distribution, and use of pesticides, by failing to comply with Forfeit 280's labeling. Monsanto was ordered to pay $12 million in fines. Sometimes illegal pesticide use can be more extreme, such as when Terminix employees in St. John's in the Virgin Islands fumigated a villa with methyl bromide, which was not labeled for residential use and is more known for its use in strawberry production under plastic mulch. That illegal application ended up with a family being exposed to the neurotoxin, and the teens still cannot eat or walk alone. The label is a legal document of which all directions must be followed. The label is the most important document you will use with respect to pesticides and their application and use. You need to know how to read it and find the important stuff. I'm Dr. DeBusk, and this video will walk you through the parts of a pesticide label. Why is it important to read the label before using pesticides? Pesticide labels contain detailed information on how to use the product correctly and legally. Therefore, it will be more effective. Labels also contain information on potential hazards associated with the product and instructions you should follow in the event of a poisoning or spill. Therefore, it will allow you to use the product safely. Following label instructions will allow you to minimize the risks and maximize the benefits. Not only will it be safer for the user, but used in a way that will protect the environment. Labels are legal documents providing directions on how to mix, apply, store, and dispose of a pesticide product. A label is the written, printed, or graphic matter on or attached to the pesticide or its container. Labeling includes all labels as well as any other material that accompanies the label. There are many different types of labels, and not all the sections can be found in the same place on the label, so you have to read the entire label. I've seen some labels that are 120 pages, while others are adhered to an aerosol can. Often the 120-page label is due to the different crops that it can go on, so likely you would focus on the crop that you are applying it to. No pesticide may be sold in the United States until the EPA has reviewed the manufacturer's application for registration and determined that the use of the product does not present an unreasonable risk to humans, wildlife, or the environment. As part of the registration process, the EPA must approve all language that the manufacturer proposes to include in the product labeling. The EPA reviews the labeling to make sure that it contains all information needed for safe and effective use of the pesticide. The EPA also ensures the information provided in the labeling is backed by reliable data, which is submitted by the manufacturer to the EPA. If an applicator or company knowingly violates the label, they can have criminal penalties of fines or imprisonment. The Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, Section 25B, exempts certain pesticide products from registration if they meet certain criteria. In order to qualify, the active ingredients must be listed by name and percentage on the label. Each active ingredient must be listed in the regulation. These include ingredients such as specific essential oils, herbs, soybean oil, corn gluten meal, etc. All inert ingredients must be listed by name on the label as well. A list of permitted inert ingredients are also included in the regulation. The total percentage by weight must equal 100%. The label must not contain false or misleading statements. You will see a lot of these 25B exempt products on the market, but keep in mind that they do not require the efficacy data that registered pesticides have. Pesticides are classified as restricted or general use. Restricted use products can only be used by a private or commercial certified applicator or under the direct supervision of a certified applicator, whereas general use products can be used by anyone. If it is classified as restricted use, it must have the statement restricted use pesticide in a box at the top of the label. It may be classified as restricted use for a variety of reasons, such as the potential for groundwater contamination, acute toxicity, or corrosiveness. If it is a general use pesticide, it will not have the box. 99% of pesticides are classified as general use. Keep in mind that states often require pesticide certification of even general use pesticides if they are not applied for home use. The label will indicate the type of pesticide, for example, herbicide, fungicide, etc., and the brand name or trademark label. This information is used to communicate with others the product that is being used. The brand name is located on the front panel of the label. In the photo, you can see the brand name of Roundup and Ortho Cleanup Grass and Weed Killer. The label lists the active ingredients and their percentage in the product. An active ingredient is any substance that will prevent, destroy, repel, or mitigate any pest. Active ingredients that function as plant regulators, desiccants, or defoliants are also classified and regulated as pesticides. Another name for active ingredient is common name. In the example on the slide, the common name or active ingredient is triasulfuron. You can also see the chemical name, which is the really long name with numbers in it. Imagine trying to say that 3 times fast. That is why they have the common names. Inert ingredients are any substances other than the active ingredient that are intentionally included in a pesticide product. Some examples of ingredients that may be inert ingredients include solvents, stabilizers, spreaders, stickers, surfactants, and defoamers. Inert and other are often used interchangeably in the ingredient statement. Inert ingredients are like McDonald's secret sauce on the Big Mac. Manufacturers don't like to give those up because then everyone could make their pesticide. After a pesticide is initially patented, the patent is good for 17 years. After that, you'll see all these generic brands. That's why there are a ton of glyphosate products. Pesticides such as herbicides, insecticides, and fungicides are grouped according to family, the target site of action or mechanism of action, and mode of action. Pesticides within a family have similar chemical structures and typically the same site or mechanism of action, MOA. In this abbreviated herbicide table, we can see that Group 5 is in the family triazine, which are photosystem II inhibitors containing the active ingredient atrazine, which has many trade names. Knowing the chemical family and MOA group to which a pesticide belongs and knowing which other pesticides have the same MOA are critical for creating a plan to prevent or delay the development of pesticide resistance. On the Spartan label, you can see that it is under Group 14. The Herbicide Resistance Action Committee, HRAC, would have a complete table for herbicides. IRAC and FRAC are for insecticides and fungicides. The EPA registration number must be on the label. It indicates that the product has been approved by the EPA. Each product has a different registration number. The first part of the number is the company, the second part is the product number, and the third part, which not all labels have, is the distributor number. For a special local need SLN registration, Section 24C of FIFRA, a label can register a new pesticide product for any use or a federally registered pesticide for an additional use. The state must demonstrate a special local need. There is no expiration date unless one is established by the state. The EPA establishment number must also be on the label or container. It identifies the facility where the product was manufactured. It doesn't identify the product. The first number is the company number, the second number is the state or country of the manufacturer, and the third number is the manufacturer's number. It is needed in case there are questions or concerns regarding the product or if there is a recall from a certain manufacturer. The name and address of the manufacturer or distributor is on the label. It will often have a number you can contact for any technical questions. It is recommended to call if you don't understand any parts of the label. A pesticide formulation is a mixture of chemicals which effectively controls a pest. Formulating a pesticide involves processing it to improve its storage, handling, safety, application, or effectiveness. The pesticide formulation is a mixture of active and inert ingredients. This information may be included on the label, often as part of the brand name. In the example of Pounce on the slide, the formulation is an emulsifiable concentrate, abbreviated as EC. Many of the formulations used by farmers and commercial applicators need to be applied with certain equipment. These formulations may also require certification or training for individuals performing the application. Here is some more information on some common formulations. An emulsifiable concentrate is an oil-based liquid solution plus an emulsifier that, when mixed with water, forms a milky solution. It requires moderate agitation and it is easy to handle and apply. In a flowable or liquid, the active ingredient has been embedded in an inert solid and ground to a fine powder. It requires moderate agitation and it is easy to handle and apply. In a solution, the active ingredient mixes readily with liquid and does not separate. A wettable powder is a dust-like formulation that does not dissolve in water and must be constantly agitated to remain in suspension. Water dispersible granules, or dry flowables, are small granules that, when mixed with water, disperse to fine particles. They require constant agitation. Water-soluble packets contain a wettable or soluble powder that has been pre-measured into a plastic bag that dissolves in the tank water. Let's test what we've learned so far. Look at part of this sample pesticide label and answer these questions. Is this a restricted or general use pesticide? Come on, take a look at it. Yep, restricted use, and we can see that it is due to its toxicity to fish. What's the brand name? What about the common name? Did you say the brand name is Weeds Away 4L and the common name or active ingredient is kilsdamine? What is the EPA registration number? How about where was the product manufactured? The EPA registration number is 910358, and it was manufactured in Florida, which you can see by looking at the establishment number. This is a harder one. What is the formulation of this herbicide? Did you find it? It says 4L, so if you look back at the table, you'll see that L means liquid. We'll use this pesticide for some other sections as well. Signal words and symbols such as danger, warning, or caution must appear in large letters on the front panel of the label. It indicates how toxic the product is to humans. A danger pesticide is highly toxic. If it also has the word poison with a skull and crossbones symbol, then it is likely to cause acute illness or severe eye or skin irritation. A warning pesticide is moderately toxic and a caution pesticide is slightly toxic. All labels will also have "keep out of reach of children" on the front of the label as well, despite their signal word. Look at the Baythroid label on the slide. What signal word does it have? Did you say warning? So what level of toxicity would that be? Right, moderately toxic. What signal word does this Guthian 2L label have? It not only has the danger signal word, but also the poison and skull and crossbones. You can see on the restricted use box that it has acute toxicity, so this one would require a lot of precaution in order to use. Let's look at some of the statements that would be on a pesticide label. The statement of practical treatment includes instructions on how to respond to an emergency exposure to the product, so first aid instructions. It is usually on the front panel of this label. It will be listed by the route of exposure. Always call the National Poison Center hotline 1-800-222-1222 for further medical instructions. It also includes a note to physician and may list antidotes or special information that a doctor would understand. All danger restricted use pesticides have a note to physician as well as most warning and caution restricted use pesticides. Precautionary statements are statements on the hazards of the product. The hazards to human and domestic animals describes the potential hazards to people and pets and actions you can take to reduce those hazards, for example, wearing gloves. These statements may also provide extra information on how to protect children and pets. The relative toxicity will correspond to the types of personal protective equipment, PPE, necessary to protect the applicator. The label will list the minimum required PPE, but applicators can always wear extra PPE. For example, it is always a good practice to wear eye protection and protective gloves, even if not required by the label. The environmental hazard statement describes the product's potential to harm wildlife, fish, endangered plants and animals, wetlands, or water. Under the section on the slide, it indicates that you should avoid applying the pesticide to water due to the extreme toxicity to fish and aquatic invertebrates, and avoid applying to blooming crops and weeds due to the toxicity to bees. The physical/chemical hazard section describes any special fire, explosion, or chemical hazards the product may pose. Those pesticides that may cause harm to bees or other pollinators may have a Protection of Pollinators box. This box gives important guidance, rules, and suggestions for maximizing pollinator protection. The label instructs you to check the status of the application site for the presence of blooming plants and pollinators, and eliminate the exposure of bees and other insect pollinators when they are foraging on pollinator-attractive plants at the application site. This should be done before you schedule an application. Let's look back at our sample label. What is the signal word on this pesticide? Did you say caution? That is correct. What kind of PPE would you need? Yeah, long sleeve shirt, long pants, chemical resistant gloves, shoes, and socks. What does the weeds away label say with regards to the pesticide's toxicity to animals and the environment? Yeah, it is toxic to fish, so do you think this pesticide has any aquatic uses? Definitely not. Directly under the directions for use is the following statement. It is a violation of federal law to use this product in a manner inconsistent with this labeling. The directions for use will state the pests that the manufacturer claims the product will control. It will also state the sites which the product is intended to protect and the correct amount of pesticide to use, or the rate. It is illegal to use the product on sites that are not listed. How do you determine if a proposed pesticide will be okay for a specific operation? The most important factor is the pesticide labeled for use at that site? So what is the site that Weeds Away is labeled for? Did you find it? It says for use in ornamental plant beds. So that is the site. The directions for use will also provide instructions for mixing and applying the product. It will give directions on when and how often the product can be applied. It will also provide restrictions on the use of the product. Some pesticides contain information about agricultural use. Agricultural use requirements indicate actions necessary to protect agricultural workers. Agricultural workers, those paid to work on the property, are considered at greater risk than the general public because of the potential for frequent exposure. The protections are delineated on the label and include the restricted entry interval, REI, which is the number of hours before an agricultural worker can enter the site without specific protective clothing. The label specifies that the protective clothing required for entry during the REI. In the agricultural use requirements box on the right, you can see that the REI for this product is 4 hours. We are going to look at our sample label again. This time we are looking at our directions for use section. Let's do a rate application problem. How many fluid ounces would you use for 3,000 square feet if you were controlling crabgrass through a post-emergent application? Pause the video and try to do the math on this. This problem has a few different parts. First, we are controlling crabgrass through a post-emergent application. So we would use the rate 0.5 to 0.75 fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet. Now we need to calculate how much we would need for 3,000 square feet. Since 3,000 divided by 1,000 is 3, then we can multiply the rate by 3, which equals 1.5 to 2.25 fluid ounces. The storage and disposal section explains how to best store the product and what to do with the unused portion of the product and the empty container. Always keep products in original containers out of the reach of children and in a locked storage area. Be aware that temperature can affect product quality and environmental safety. Do not contaminate food or foodstuffs. To dispose of the container, triple rinse, puncture, and dispose of it according to your local solid waste authority's requirements. Here are some tips for using pesticides. Prior to your purchase of a pesticide, identify if the product meets your pest management needs. You must be able to use it safely and have the proper equipment for the application. The concentration of the product should be in the range suitable for the area you are treating. Prior to mixing the product, check the personal protective equipment required. Read the specific warning, mixing directions, the amount needed, and the compatibility. Prior to application, determine if the product is registered for the site, when to apply it, safety measures required, proper application rate, use restrictions, proper application method, and special instructions. Prior to storage and disposal, learn where and how to store the product, where not to store it, and how to dispose of the excess pesticide and container. Although nowadays we look for labels using Google, the labels found there may not be the most recent label. A better way to find labels is to go to the National Pesticide Information Retrieval System. You can search by state and then the pesticide name. You click on the round icon to view the label. In response to public demands for the right to know, the federal government requires employers to maintain information on those materials kept on their premises mandated by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Previously called Materials Safety Data Sheets, they were renamed to Safety Data Sheets, SDS, to align with a globally harmonized system of classification. Unlike labels, SDS has a 16-section standard with the information of greatest concern first, such as the chemical composition and first aid measures. These are intended to provide workers and emergency personnel with procedures for handling or working with that substance in a safe manner. Each pesticide product will have a matching SDS, as you can see in this example of Tempo Ultra WP. In summary, the label is the most important document when it comes to pesticide use. You need to read the full label before use because ignorance of what the label says won't protect you from criminal penalties. You need to understand the directions for use. If you don't understand them, then you can contact the manufacturer and talk to their technical team. You need to understand the precautions so you don't harm people or the environment. Lastly, the label is the law, so you need to follow it.